Welcome to my preview not review of Zenless Zone Zero's performance on PS5. There are no story spoilers in this video, and I have carefully chosen the content in this video to be as relevant to what I'm discussing as possible, while again, avoiding spoiling the game's story for players who want to go in fresh when the game launches. Remember, this is the technical test for Zenless Zone Zero on PS5, so all of the footage you see here is not the final game. The game itself even reminds you at all times right down here. Right when I was wrapping this video up, we got a notice that it is already coming to a close as of May 8th. So if you have any questions that I didn't answer in this video, make sure to comment them ASAP. This video took so much more work than I originally anticipated. I have played Zenless Zone Zero's first two chapters twice now, once on PC and once again on PS5. I'll probably have the story memorized by the time the game officially releases. Across the three platforms I played the game on, I've accumulated at least 40 hours into it in the past week and a half, with 13 specifically being on PS5. The animations are super fluid, the character models for both playable and non-playable characters are the best we've seen, and the hub worlds have tiny little details that make the whole thing feel lived in, and really well designed. The game overall appears to be going for an early 2000s nostalgia aesthetic, and it makes me really want to play some GameCube games, so I think it is succeeding with its visual goal. Normally when I do my performance analysis or review videos, I test the game's boot and load times. Due to the game being in testing and getting multiple daily patches, I have decided to save this test for the launch version of the game. The one cool thing being that I'll be able to compare the last beta version with the final game at release. So let's actually start with the game's daily loop. And I have a reason for showing you this first, so please stay tuned. Within the game's daily loop, you'll spend a lot of time on 6th Street. You will visit a newspaper stand with a scratch card where you can win either the game's normal currency system, Denny's, or the premium currency system, Polychromes, for pulls, or rather, system searches. While not a performance issue, I do feel rather disappointed that you have to use the right stick to scratch the card and not the DualSense's touchpad. After the newspaper stand, you have a noodle shop, which acts like your craftable food in both Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail. You spend Denny's here, and you get a slick animation that plays without a hitch most of the time. Right next to that noodle shop is a coffee shop. Here you can spend Denny's to buy yourself a cup of joe, which grants you 60 battery charge, which is equivalent to a fragile resin from Genshin Impact and a fuel canister from Honkai Star Rail. Now why did I show you a few of the locations on 6th Street? Well, this is why. Your eyes aren't deceiving you, the performance on 6th Street can be absolutely abysmal on PS5. The only way to mitigate this, in my testing, is to wait it out, or avoid pausing the game or accessing menus, which defeats the purpose of this hub area. I really hope HoYoverse makes fixing this a priority on PS5 since, on PC this area runs with only the occasional hitch, which is understandable due to its beta nature, but the PS5 version is just in an unacceptable state. The PS5 acts so similarly to a PC that hasn't compiled its shaders, but knowing how console games work, the shaders have to have already been pre-compiled. Hopefully this is something that gets fixed by release, because this alone makes me want to play the game on my iPad over my PS5. I know the TV gameplay is quite the hot topic, with some people hating it and some people loving it, but as for its performance, the first two chapters of the game seem to run without a hitch when it comes to the TV segments. I would honestly be very disappointed if it somehow ran like 6th Street does, but thankfully it appears to be fine even in its testing form. Now we move on to cutscenes. There are 3 different types of cutscenes in this game. 1 is a comic book style, which is semi-interactive, 2 is a side-by-side conversation style, and 3 is a traditional cutscene with no interactivity. The comic book style looks great, but it isn't worth comparing since it visually is identical on the 3 platforms I tested. The conversation style and traditional cutscenes is where a comparison could matter. Starting with the conversation style cutscenes, on the left is PC and on the right is PS5.
You've gotten caught by the gang?
I'm confident in Nicole's adaptability, but considering we're being targeted by the Red Fang gang, things aren't looking too good lately.
Name's Nikomata, your new client.
I have these zoomed in at 2x on both sides to help emphasize the level of fidelity on display here. Without the side-by-side comparison, I think you would be forgiven for being absolutely unable to tell a difference between the two. Texture resolution, model quality, and shadow quality all appear to match the PC's highest settings in this type of cutscene. The only actual discernible difference is the color grading. The PC version is just a tad more saturated than the PS5 version. This appears to apply to everything though, since all of my comparison clips of Zenless Zone Zero in this video look a tad more saturated on PC. No, I did not color grade them, I left them unedited, especially since I want these clips to be the fairest possible comparison clips. Now lastly for cutscenes, we will look at a traditional, fully animated cutscene. For this comparison, I have split the footage down the middle and zoomed it in by 35%. This should make it just a little easier to compare the two. I will stop talking for just a little bit so you can see a little bit of this cutscene with its original audio. Again, there are no spoilers. So I bet you didn't see a difference again other than the color grading. Well, it appears that the fully animated cutscenes in this game are pre-rendered. If I had to guess why, it is probably due to low-powered phones, tablets, and PCs. But considering how bad the overworld performs on PS5, maybe this is a good thing. Even if most PCs should be able to run this in real time, or at least I think so. Before we move on to the combat, I want to show you 3 more quick comparisons of the PC and PS5 version of this game. Once again, PC is on the left and PS5 is on the right. The clips for both are zoomed in by 32% this time, which hopefully gives you a better look at the differences, especially if you're on a mobile device. Use the chapters or timestamps to skip this section if you're not interested in it. Now we move on to the combat performance testing. Here, the lowest FPS I observed during testing on PS5 was 26 FPS. Normally VSync works its magic and only lets the frame rate drop to 30 to preserve some kind of fluidity, but it can buckle a few frames below when using effects-heavy characters. The frame rate drops so commonly to 30 on PS5 during combat that while I wouldn't want to play a 30Hz game myself, I almost think them issuing a 30 FPS cap in the settings would be a smart idea. A 40 FPS option for people using 120Hz displays would also be nice, since this game does not stay within a VRR window and cannot benefit from VRR at 60Hz, which has its lower acceptable bounds set to 48Hz on PS5. Now I'm going to let the 3 performance clips play without my commentary, and I'll be back after it concludes. If you want to skip this section, use the chapters or timestamps.
Supporting fire! Just one strike!
Watch out.
My goal is never reset their target.
As you command.
What are you waiting for? Get the ball. Don't move. My turn. All right. Shine bright.
Hey, idiots, I'm here.
Go now.
Evade now.
I got you.
Go play.
Electric charge.
My goal is never reset their target.
Say goodbye to our guests.
Eliminating target.
You might be wondering, does the game run that bad on PC and mobile? No, it does not. While I can't use my tools to show you the FPS on this PC footage, I at least can show you this footage. This should definitely look so much more fluid than what you've been seeing on PS5. We have to remember though, that this again is a technical test for the PS5 version of the game, and it does not represent the final game. If the rumored semi-confirmed release date of July 3rd is correct, I hope that is exclusively for PC and mobile. I personally think the PS5 version needs much more time in the oven, because I do not want to play the game's campaign or the game at all in this poorly performance state in an official way. Despite the performance woes, I really like what I've seen, and heck, I've played the game twice already. After this beta concludes, these accounts will get wiped clean, and will not carry over, and I am still fully willing to play it again once it officially launches. But I will avoid the PS5 version if it launches in the exact same state as it is now. I will still test it on launch though on PS5, and if cross-save is in the final version of the game, I will probably spend most of my time on Zenless Zone Zero on PC and mobile. That's only if the performance woes remain though. If you found this video to be interesting and or helpful, please make sure to leave a like, and consider subscribing to see my coverage of other games made by HoYoverse. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the comments.
Every effort counts!
I bet you're safe.